The latest out of Ukraine. After weeks of fighting, Russia has captured Mariupol. It is the first major Ukrainian city Moscow has managed to occupy since launching its invasion nearly 3 months ago now. NBC News chief foreign correspondent Richard Engel has the latest from the city of Kharkiv.
In Ukraine, more buses evacuated Ukrainian fighters from a steel plant in Mariupol. Ukraine wants to swap them for Russian prisoners. But Russia now says it is investigating the fighters for possible war crimes and may designate them as members of a terrorist group. Russia appears to be sending a message pressuring Ukraine and the United States not to pursue war crimes cases against Russian soldiers, or Ukrainian troops could face similar charges. But there's one key difference: evidence. When Ukrainian troops drove the Russians back from around Kyiv last month, Ukrainians told us how Russian forces had carried out summary executions. They uncovered mass graves. The bodies of Ukrainians lay scattered in the streets. And now more evidence is coming to light in eastern Ukraine, where Ukrainian troops are driving Russian forces away from the nation's second largest city, Kharkiv. Not much is left of the main street in Olhovka. Russian forces carpet bombed this village. Nearly every house is destroyed or badly damaged. Nikolai never left. He stayed in the wreck of his home, living on canned food and pickles.
What happened here? What did you see?
The Russians came and said they were liberating us, he says. The Russians here didn't go house to house carrying out executions. Instead, residents say they encouraged Ukrainians to leave and move to Russia. Tatiana, a teacher, stayed, but her husband did leave.
Your husband has now found a job, presumably safe and somewhat comfortable in Russia. You're living here now. Do you think you made the right choice?
When I looked at it and weighed the options, I love my husband, but I also love my land and my country, so I stayed. It's this determination that's perhaps been the biggest surprise of this war for the Russian president, who now faces a country that won't give in and a NATO alliance that appears set to grow right on Russia's doorstep.
NBC's Richard Engel reporting for us from the ground in Ukraine. Meanwhile, the new report reveals Russia could be suffering significant resourcing problems. The UK's defense ministry says Russia likely has used several thousand Chechnyan fighters in its war against Ukraine, making significant use of auxiliary personnel in its attempt to overcome Ukrainian resistance. The ministry reports the move, quote, demonstrates significant resourcing problems for Russia and is, quote, likely contributing to a disunited command, which continues to hamper Russia's operations. And the Ukrainian Ministry of Defense Telegram channel now estimates Russia has lost 27,900 troops since the invasion began. Joining us now, retired U.S. Army General Steph Twitty. He's an MSNBC military analyst. General, thanks for being with us again this morning. I want to go back to Mariupol and what you view as the significance of Russia finally, after months of fighting, months of battle, particularly around that steel factory, taking that city, a strategic city that Putin desperately wanted to begin his move along the coast. How big a move is that for him to finally capture it?
Yeah, good to be with you this morning. This is a significant win for the Russians, and it's a win for two reasons. Number one, it cuts the Ukrainians off of the Sea of Azov. And number two, this is a piece of a puzzle that Russia needs in order to put that land bridge in Crimea. And so if you think about it and look at over from Kherson over to Mariupol, the Russians have gained some success there. In fact, they're controlling Kherson. Now they're controlling Mariupol. The decisive battle now ends up, no doubt, in the Donbass. And so if the Russians are successful in the Donbass, then they will complete not only their land bridge into Crimea, but they will also retain the South in the east, and then Ukraine will essentially become a landlocked state. Of course, they have to get Odessa as well, but essentially they've cut the Ukrainians off from the Black Sea and the Sea of Azov as well. So a significant victory. careful.
Yeah, significant victory. General, as badly as they've been doing, though, certainly in the Donbass and other parts of Ukraine when we went to Kyiv, how hard is it going to be for them to hold that land bridge, first of all, and secondly, to achieve the gains they need to achieve in the Donbass?
Yeah, it's a great question, Joe, because I assess what we haven't seen yet. There's going to be a significant uprising from the people. Call it an insurgency that the Russians really have not seen yet. As you know, there's been a lot of bombing going on. People are extremely angry, and this is ripe for uprising and insurgency to come soon. Now, to answer your other question, the Donbass is going to be extremely difficult for them. And as you know, 30% combat power loss, very significant. They're meeting limited gains in the Donbass. They can't get their act together logistically. And so I anticipate, again, a protracted war in the Donbass with this give and take between both.
So, General, I finally want to draw your attention to a Wall Street Journal editorial this morning, and it talks about a GOP faction voting against Ukraine. And this is what the editorial page writers wrote. The growing GOP isolationist caucus is a bad sign for the party and risks squandering longtime Republican advantages on foreign policy and national security. What the Wall Street Journal editorial page says is that those Republicans that are saying, oh, this isn't our fight, we need to focus more on building America and not helping the Ukrainians. Can you explain what we have at stake in Ukraine and why it's so important that these Republicans understand we have to keep contributing to the Ukrainian cause?
Absolutely, Joe. This is no doubt a fight for democracy. And so Ukraine is just a piece of what Putin is looking at. His next objective, who knows? But as you know, he has former Soviet states such as Estonia, he has Latvia, Lithuania, Poland, and he could have eyes on who's next in terms of where he wants to go here. And we must all remember that we're part of this alliance called NATO, 30 that's a part. And as a part of that alliance, which was created after World War II, as you know, an attack on one is attack on all. So we have skin in the game here in that way. But the greater piece is this attack on the Western world is what we have to look at, in which will change our way of life if we do not stand up for the Ukrainians here and now and push the Russians back.
Retired U.S. Army General Steph Twitty, thank you very, very much.